Matrix 3 is an intentionally vulnerable Linux VM from VulnHub. As with all the others, the objective is to obtain unauthorized root access somehow and capture a flag file that requires root privileges to read. Let's get to work. So first of all, just double click the OVA file that's supplied with this course. If you don't have it yet, you can get it from my Google Drive. Click import. Now let's just verify that it has the correct settings. So right click Machine Matrix, click Settings. We're going to go to Network. Okay, good. This one is set as host only. Make sure that yours is set to your host only adapter. Now I'm just going to double click that to start it. Okay, once it's booted up, switch over to your Kali Linux box. If you don't have it on yet, go ahead and turn it on now. So I'm just going to swap over to Kali Linux, open up a terminal, and I'm going to use NetDiscover to find the IP address of the Matrix 3 box, scanning the host-only network. Okay, so we've got the IP address. Let's try an Nmap scan. This is going to be a little bit different than the other one. So Nmap-P-, that's going to scan all 65,535 ports instead of the default top most common ports. So you do that, -A, and we're going to do -T5. That's the timing template. It's the fastest one, so just a speedy scan. And we're going to put in the IP address and get to work. All right, so we have port 80 open, which is running simple HTTP server. SSH running on a non-standard port 6464. And port 7331, which is running something called CalDAV. All right, so what I want to check out first is port 80. So let's open up a web browser and see what we get out of that. So I'm just going to minimize this for a second. Open up a web browser. Now I'll just access it over HTTP. So the IP address of Matrix 3 right there. And we have this web page. It says follow the white rabbit. And I'm just going to right click any space in here and view page source. All right. See if we can find anything in the metadata here. Doesn't look like there's anything of value. So we're going to close out of that. And we're going to try to brute force some web directories if possible. So let's just minimize that real quick. Go back to the terminal. Just going to clear that out. Okay, so now we're going to use dir-b, which is a tool that will attempt to request web directories in a list that we supply and shows which directories have legitimate responses from the web server, ergo revealing what's accessible, if anything. So let's run it against Matrix 3 over port 80 with the default word list and see what we can find. Just dir-b, http:// and the IP address of Matrix 3. Okay, so I see a directory here, assets. Let's just right click that and open link, see what's in it. All right, so seeing some basic default stuff here. I do see Matrix can show you the door.png, so it's an image file. Let's just click that. All right, we have a rabbit here. I'm just going to save that image. Save it to the downloads folder. So the reason I'm saving this is because I want to check the image out to see if there's any metadata, steganography, stuff that I can analyze in it to maybe get a password or some other useful information, because this is a capture the flag virtual machine. Sometimes that works out. So let's go back to the terminal and I'll show you how to use zsteg. Okay, zsteg is a useful tool that we can use to figure out if there's any embedded data in the .png file. So first of all, I'm going to go to the downloads folder where we have the PNG file that we just downloaded. And by the way, the zsteg tool is not included by default in Kali. I have it on this VM that I supplied for you in this course, but if you're using your own, you may have to download it. Just type in gem install zsteg. So anyway, we're going to type in zsteg-a, and the name of the file here is matrix can show you the door.png, and hit enter. It's going to run some quick analysis. Okay, let's take a look at what we have here under the results. Looks like a bunch of gibberish. All right. I don't see anything of interest here. I'm going to just clear that out. And let's try strings. It is a built-in Linux command that we can use to see any plain text strings that are inside this file here. Looks like the same thing here. Scroll to the top. There's nothing that I see so far that's useful, potentially. Just going to run that again, pipe it to less. Yeah, everything looks normal here. I don't see anything of interest. Okay. So analysis of this picture has yielded no results. But let's just go back to the web browser here. I'm going to close these tabs real quick. And let's try to see if the string matrix is actually a web directory. Okay. Let's try uppercase. Okay, good. Now we're in. We have some sort of web directory here named matrix. All right. So now let's see what we can find in this newly discovered web directory. So let's just click on the first one here. Okay, so clicking on the first link brought us to this other directory 4, which has the directories EMNOR. Just go back one real quick. Let's see. Okay, so same thing. Okay. So it looks like some of these lead to dead ends. So with knowledge of capture the flag challenges, it's probably trying to spell out some sort of word or use some sort of combination that'll allow us to unlock some resource to move to the next step. So we could try every combination, but that'd take a long time. So I'm just gonna check it out offline real quick. Okay, so the star of the movie Matrix is Neo. That's his hacker name. So let's just spell that out. So N-E-O. It spells out Neo up here. And what that does is brings us to another set of directories, 1 through 9. And I have no idea what this number could possibly be, even with knowledge of the movie. So I'm going to brute force it with Burp Suite Intruder. To do that, let's just set up our proxy. So preferences here. Type in proxy in the search bar here. Click settings. Click the manual proxy configuration. And we're going to type in 127.0.0.1. That's the loopback address. And we're going to specify a port of 8080. That's the default port for Burp Suite. Make sure to check this box here. Use proxy server for all protocols. Now we can click OK. All right, now hop over to Burp Suite. I have it here on your desktop. Just click close and start a temporary project using Burp's defaults. Okay, real quick. So if you've never heard of Burp Suite before, it is the best web application hacking tool, hands down, especially for manual penetration testing of web applications. I highly suggest that you familiarize yourself with it and maybe even buy the pro version, which is a steal at like $499. It's very cheap for what it is. It's something that I couldn't live without as a professional pen tester. Anyway, we're going to go to the proxy tab. And now we're going to click options. All right. So as you can see here, it is running the proxy right now over port 8080, same way as we set it up in Firefox. So just going to go to the intercept tab. And we have everything set up to proxy traffic. So all I have to do is go over here, back to this directory, a matrix NEO. And I'm just going to click reload current page. That's going to intercept that request into this proxy. So now that I have the request, I'm just going to right click and send to intruder. Now let's just click the intruder tab. Okay, first thing is to go to the positions tab. This is going to be where the payloads are going to be inserted. So we have payload 1 and 2. The forward slashes indicate the levels of the web directory. So we started out in this directory NEO, and we're going to try to brute force additional directories, see if we can get to the next step by using these two payload positions. And we're going to iterate through numbers 1 through 9, because as you see here, we have 1 through 9. So we're just going to try all combinations of those instead of clicking on them one by one, which could take forever. So let's do that. And instead of attack type sniper, we're going to choose cluster bomb. I'm going to tell you why we do that right now. So we can just get a quick explanation here. All I did was click this question mark. We have Burp Suite documentation. So we have everything to do with the intruder here. I'm just going to go to positions and attack type. So cluster bomb uses multiple payload sets. So instead of a sniper that is going to use a single set of payloads, we are going to use 2 payloads, 2 or more. So a maximum of 20. All right, so we're going to close that out. Go to the payloads tab. Okay, so for payload set 1, we're going to set a payload type of numbers. Just going to be real simple, 1 through 9. And step is going to be 1, so 1 at a time. And sequential, just run it down the line, 1 through 9. Same thing for payload set 2. Numbers, 1 through 9, step 1. And now we're going to go to options. Since we know that it is going to result in a 301 redirect, we want to follow the redirection so we can analyze the end result instead of just 301, which is going to be the same for everything. So just click always. And now we can start the attack. So click that button right here and click OK. Okay, so once that's done, we're going to sort it by length. That's going to sort it by the content length of the response from the web server. So as you can see here, we have one request, which is the 33rd request, that has a different content length than every other response from the web server. So this could be our way in. We have Neo64. Okay, so we can just quickly request in browser an original session, or we could just type it in, but I'm just showing you a different way to do it. So just click copy. And before you try to access that, we have to turn off the proxy. Otherwise, it's going to be intercepted and indefinitely stall you from getting to it. So click that. Intercept is off. Just going to go to this tab here and paste. All right. So that brings us to a file named secret.gz. So let's go ahead and click on that file and save it. Let's open up a terminal real quick. Let's go to the downloads directory. There's a file here. Let's see what type of file it is real quick. Just run the file command on it. Okay. So it is a text file with a .gz extension. So let's just take a look at what is in that file. Okay. So we have admin and what looks like to be a MD5 hash. It's probably a password. Okay, so what we want to do now is crack this hash. So let's just highlight it and copy it. Now what I'm going to do here is echo double quote, paste the string in there and double quote, and put it in a file named hash. And we're going to use John the Ripper to crack the hash. So John -- show. It's going to show the password after it's cracked. -- format equals raw -MD5, specifying the MD5 is the hash type and the name of the file, which is hash. Okay, password cracked. We immediately got it. It is a password of lowercase PASSWD. So if you remember from the Nmap output, SSH was open over port 6464. Let's just go back to the home directory and clear the terminal real quick. I'm going to type in SSH admin at IP address of matrix 3, and I'm going to specify a port number of 6464. Just type in yes. Okay, so the password was PASSWD. All right, so it's not an SSH username and password, unfortunately, so we're going to have to try to attack the other services. We also had port 7331 open. So I'm just going to go over here to our web browser and type in http://192.168.56.135. That's the IP address of matrix 3. And I'm going to try a port of 7331. Okay, so it's requesting a username and password. Let's try the username and password we just recovered, admin PASSWD. All right, so we are in. Looks like, let's take a look here. So looks like another dead end similar to the one on port 80. Let's see if we can brute force any web directories here. Since we have the username and password, we can do an authenticated dir scan. So let's just go back here and try that out. Let's just try dir http:// IP address of matrix 3. This time specifying a port of 7331 -u. We're going to use admin and password or PASSWD. Try that. Okay, we have a couple directories here. I see a new one called data. Let's just open that link real quick. We're already logged in. All right, let me see. There's a file here named data. Let's save that. Let's take a look at it. Okay, so this is a packed executable. Let's just open our file system here. We'll do it right here on the desktop. And I'll go to my downloads folder. Okay. If you highlight this file, it says here that it's a DOS or Windows executable. So we can reverse engineer this file using a tool called Ghidra, which was developed by the NSA for these purposes. So I'm going to go to my home folder. Now, I've already installed Ghidra for you on the Kali Linux VM that I supplied with this course. But if you are using your own, you'll just have to install Ghidra and download JDK and unpack that, and you'll be fine. Otherwise, just use mine because it's easier. It has everything you need. So I have Ghidra here. Just going to show you how to do that. So unzip Ghidra. Okay, so let's change to the newly created directory. All right, there it is, the executable. So all we have to do now is type /Ghidra run. It's going to open Ghidra for us. If there are any prompts, just click OK or to get to the next step. And what we have here is the ability to import a file. So just File, Import File. And we're going to go to our Downloads folder where the data file is, the DOS executable. Click OK. All right. So we have a quick import results summary here. All right, that's interesting. We have a full file path here. All right, click OK. All right, so right click this imported file data and open in default tool. So click yes to analyze the data. Use the default options. Click analyze. Okay, so we got some sort of warnings. Just click OK, ignore that. I'm going to maximize this. And it looks like we have quite a bit of data to look through here. So really there's no easy way to do this. You have to look line by line, see if there's anything interesting here. Okay, after a ton of looking through mostly useless information, I found a username and password. Here it is, guest, and this password right here. Took me about 10 times looking through the entire thing of output here, but I found it. So let's just copy that and move on, try to see if we can get into SSH with this username and password that we found. All right, back to a terminal, and we're going to type SSH guest at IP address of matrix 3, and we're going to use port 6464. And we're going to try that password that we just recovered using Ghidra. All right, very good. Now we're logged in as guest. So let's see what we can find in the directory. All right. Looks like we are in a limited shell. Let's just use echo shell to show the shell variable here. All right, it's running rbash. So luckily there's ways around this. Otherwise, we will not be able to use any basic Linux commands. So there's a way to bypass these restrictions within SSH itself. So what I'm going to do is just exit out of this SSH session, and we're going to type in SSH guest at IP address of matrix 3, port 6464-T, double quote bash -- no profile. What that is going to do, it's going to open an SSH session with no profile for bash. So it should bypass this rbash and allow us to type regular commands. So plug in your password. Very good. Now we can type commands. All right, so let's see if there's anything that we can use as sudo. All right, so we have two things that we can run. One is root and one is the user Trinity. Not quite sure how we would use this, but I do see the cp command, which is copy. There's a couple ways I can think of right off the bat to be able to abuse that to escalate privileges from guest to user. So let's try that first. What we can do here is generate an SSH key pair, copying the public key into the authorized keys folder of matrix 3 and use the private key to SSH in as the user Trinity. So let's give that one a shot. Okay, first of all, we're going to generate a key pair. So SSH-keygen. I'm doing this in my home directory. So I'm going to name the file Trinity and just hit enter for all the other prompts. All right, so here I have Trinity and trinity.pub in my home directory. I'm just going to show you right here. It's in home guest. Okay, so now I'm going to change the permissions of trinity.pub. So chmod 777 trinity.pub. Okay. Now we're going to use our sudo capabilities to copy the file into the home trinity.ssh directory. So let's do that. I'm going to type in sudo-u, specify the user Trinity. I'm going to use cp, and we're going to use trinity.pub, copy it into home trinity.ssh, authorized _keys. Okay, now let's just cat this private key, and I'm just gonna grab that, and we're going to open up another tab here in Kali again. So I'll just create a new file named Trinity. All right, we have our private key right there. Save that. And now we should be able to SSH as the user Trinity with this private key. Okay, before we use it though, we're going to have to change the permissions. So chmod 600 Trinity. And now let's type in SSH Trinity at IP address of matrix 3, port number of 6464-I, specifying that private key that we just made. All right, here we are. We're in Trinity at matrix. We have escalated privileges to user. Let's see if there's any sudo commands that we can run as Trinity. So sudo-l. All right, so there's one command that we can run as root. It is in our home directory named Oracle. So let's see what that's about. Well, we're in our home directory here, and there is no file named Oracle. So we're going to have to create one. This is an easy way to escalate our privileges. We can make a simple shell script. So I'm just going to name it Oracle, so it matches what we can use with sudo. And I'm just going to write a simple shell script. /bin/bash. Could be /bin/sh as well. Either one of those is going to spawn a root shell if we use it with sudo. So let's try that out. I'm going to change the permissions, so make it executable. So chmod 777 Oracle. Now sudo. We're in the correct directory already. So sudo Oracle. Okay. Here we go. We got root privileges now. So Let's go to the root directory. There we go. All right. We have successfully escalated privileges to root. We're now complete and we can move on to the next one.